Sean here at K2 Trades. Today I'm going to be going over the K2 Pivots intraday strategy, and you can use this on the 30-minute and 1 hour time frame. So let's get started. The first requirement requires that you identify a strong trend. The next requirement requires that you identify a retracement and rejection of the K2 pivot. Lastly, you need to identify a valid K2 momentum signal, and once all these three requirements have been met, you can enter on the open of the falling candle. Simple, right? Alright, so let's get started with the first requirement. So first, you want to identify a strong trend. In order to do that, you're going to look at the K2 pivots, and you're going to make sure that the pivots are angling in the same direction and that they're all pretty spaced out. So as you can see right here, we have level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. And as you can see, price is coming down pretty nicely for a downtrend. You can see over here, the pivots are kind of jumbled up together and they're crossing over. So in this situation, you see that price isn't really trending in any direction. You can see that price kind of goes sideways, comes back down, comes up, goes sideways again, before breaking out into another downtrend. You can see right here, the K2 pivot started to spread out like they did earlier, similar to how they were over here. And then you can see price pretty much goes straight down here. So this would be one way to identify a strong trend. Obviously, there's other ways, but if you're going to be using the K2 pivots, that would be the easiest way to identify the trend. Next, you want to identify a retracement and rejection of a K2 pivot. So this doesn't necessarily mean that price needs to reject, directly off a pivot, like it did right here. What this really means is that price needs to retrace up into the pivot zones and retrace off and reject off, one of the areas. That's just giving you confirmation that price is rejected off the pivots and then it's coming back down. So as you can see right here, price came up, came down, came up again right here. Nice rejection from this wick. You can see that it's a rejection because it has a wick on the higher end, showing that the bulls lost power right here, and it confirmed with a bearish push down. As you can see, it pushed way down over here. So right here, following the second requirement. So again, with number 1, we identified a strong trend. We saw right here that the pivots kind of spaced out right here, and we're all angling downwards. So that would confirm a strong trend downwards. Secondly, we want to identify retracement and rejection off the K2 pivot zone. So right here, you can see price came down in the direction of the trend. It retraced up and then rejected off this area right here and came back down. So the first two requirements are met. We identified a strong trend. We identified a retracement and rejection off the K2 pivots. And lastly, we want to identify a valid K2 momentum signal. So a valid K2 momentum signal would be a sell signal with a red bearish candle. As you can see right here, we had a valid sell, price came down. You can see right here, we had a valid buy right here, but the thing is it was going against the trend. So, obviously you don't want to trade against the trend. This would be an example of an invalid signal because it's a sell signal with a green bullish candle. So in order for it to be a valid sell, it would have to have a sell signal with a red bearish candle like it did right here. Similar with buys, it'd have to be a buy signal with a green bullish candle like it is right here. So as you can see right here, we've met all three requirements. We have identified a strong trend downwards, we've identified a retracement right here, price retraced up, and we identified the rejection of the K2 pivot zones, which would be exactly right here. Lastly, we identified a valid K2 momentum signal, which would be right here, and this is valid, like I said earlier, because it's a sell signal with a red bearish candle. So once those requirements are met, you can enter on the open of the following candle. We'll use the short tool. The open of the following candle will be right here. And then the thing with your stop loss is that this is very subjective. You can either put it at the previous swing, which would be right here, or you can put it at any of the last two K2 pivot levels. So depending on your risk, if you want to go for a big move, you can move it up here or up over here to level 3 or level 4. Or if you just want to keep it simple like we usually do and put it at the previous swing, you would just put it right here. So that'd be about 2,400 pips. Put that for our TP. And obviously, profit target hit right over there. So let me guys show you an example real time. We'll just we'll rewind this, and then we'll go back to where this entry happened. And then let me see where the requirements are right here. And then let's just move forward. So we'll move forward right here. So we've already identified a strong trend, correct? Because you can see right here that the pivots are pretty spread out and they're all angling downward. So obviously we are in a very strong downtrend. So let's keep moving forward. And then next, since we already identified a strong downtrend, next we want to identify a retracement and rejection off the K2 pivots. So you can see right here, price is coming down. We got a signal in the opposite direction, so this would be considered a retracement. Let's just keep moving forward. Yeah, obviously you can see right here, price came down and then it shot back up. So if it shoots back up like this would be considered a retracement. Next up, you want to identify a rejection off the K2 pivot. So as you can see right here, we have about 1 rejection, 2 rejection, 3 rejection, 4 rejection, 5 rejection, 6 rejection. So this is a strong rejection right here. Now we've filled the 2 first requirements. We've identified a strong trend downwards, and then we've identified a retracement and rejection off the K2 pivots, which happened right here. So our last requirement is just going to require that we identify a valid K2 momentum signal. So now, since we're trading downwards, we're going to look for a red signal, and we're going to make sure that it's valid by having a red bearish candle like it did right here. All right, so perfect. We have a signal right there. So as you can see right here, we've met all 3 requirements all over again. So we've identified a strong trend downwards. You can see that the K2 pivots are pretty spread out, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next, we identified a retracement and rejection off the K2 pivot zone. So you can see right here, price came down, it retraced up in this direction, and then it rejected off the level 2 right here. So those 2 requirements are met. Last requirement, we identified a valid K2 momentum signal. Right here, we have a valid sell signal because it is a sell signal with a red bearish candle. So, just like we did earlier, we can enter on the open of the following candle. So let's enter a short position right here. And like I said earlier, you can place your stop loss at the previous swing, which would be right here. And this would be considered the swing because price swung down, swung up, and then swung back down. So this would be the nearest swing right here. Or you can place it at the level 3 or the level 4. So it just really depends on your risk appetite. If you can handle more risk, then yeah, you can move it up here. But personally, I like to win a lot. I don't want to risk too much. I just want to win, stack the wins. So I'm going to place my stop loss right here at the previous swing. It's at about 1,667 pips. Profit target same distance away. Let's move forward. There you go. Profit target hit in 30 minutes. So as you guys can see, it's real simple. So that's pretty much it. Like if you watched the K2 pivot swing strategy video, you can see that the requirements are exactly the same. So you can pretty much apply this on for swing, intraday, scalping, everything, and pretty much the requirements can be exactly the same. It's just that you're applying it on a lower time frame. Obviously, if you apply it on the higher time frames, you're going to have higher accuracy, but you're going to have less entries. So in the next videos, I'm going to be covering the scalping strategy, which is exactly the same, but it's just on a lower time frame. All right, guys, thanks.
K2, yeah, we headed for the top now. K2, yeah, we call it when it drop down.